He hath put a new song deep within my heart, since the Savior saved me and gave me a brand new heart. I will sing His praises all along my way. This will be my new song that Jesus saves today. This will be my new song that Jesus saves today.
We're not doing it
Yes,
twice.
okay, we'll go through again. Okay. One more time. It's easy. He hath put a new song deep within my heart, since the Savior saved me and gave me a brand new start. I will sing His praises all along my way. This will be my new song that Jesus saves today. This will be my new song that Jesus saves today. Good singing. You may be seated. Yeah, hold that note.
All right, we are on number 13 of that 2 Samuel lesson. If we want to turn there, we can. By the way, I pulled the trigger on Friday and bought a hoop. So the one that's out in the parking lot is coming down. And I measured up the hole pattern. They were not a dealer with Bison. They were not. Well, it went in the back. He asked if they dealt with Bison. He said, no, we don't do. They dealt with Gorilla. Anyway, we checked the hole pattern because they were on the floor. It's the same hole pattern. So hopefully it's just going to unbolt. But somebody hit one of the 4 screws, the bolt out here, with a bulldozer. So we're going to put a nut on it. I don't know what size it is, a 12 or a 13, whatever. And then we're going to take a sledgehammer and try to knock it back in position, get them off, then come over here with a bobcat, lift it off, and then we'll put the new one on. They're not going to deliver. We're going to go over and pick it up. So somebody is going. They're taking one of these trucks over there. I don't feel led to be the one to put it up.
I'll still be able to duck under it, though.
Well, we want to avoid us hitting it. I told the guy about it. He said you wouldn't believe it and what people hit. I guess if you're in that business and you're selling them, they're coming across that on a weekly basis.
I bet you can duck underneath that hook, too.
Oh, the one that's up there?
The new one.
No, the new one.
Don't hit it in coffee.
Oh, there you go.
They must have changed who they work with, because they were definitely listed as a dealer.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So I went over to the place where I know I got it. And it was called Sports something. He said they sold T-shirts and apparel for schools. And I said, well, we got this like 10, 12, 13 years ago. He said, well, he's been there like 10 years. Maybe they used to do that. So they got out of it. I know where I got it. I'm positive I know it. And they said they're still there, but they got out of that business of selling those things.
Weren't making enough money.
Yeah, you know what? That's what what part of marketing is. You go to school, and I don't even think you have to go to school to do that. You go to school to learn how to have the products flow. But for some people, that's a natural ability. They're able to do that without taking any lessons or classes. And then somebody who knows what to buy and sell, the idea is I only buy what's going to be popular, what I can move off the shelf. If they can't move it off the shelf, they don't want them working for them. You know, you have to know what the public wants. But I'm not here to sell what the public wants. We're not selling anything. We have to preach what Jesus wants. Amen. We are on number 13. The only place this word shows up, and we do this periodically. I'm not going to do it this morning where we name off words that are only one time in the Bible. For Easter time, name those off. What shows up one time in the Bible?
Easter.
Easter? Give me another one. One time in the Bible.
Propitiation.
Really?
You know what? That might be true. Let me go there, see if I have it marked that way. Anybody know where it is?
Galatians. 1 John
1 John?
3:16.
No, 2:2. I only have it marked as the final payment. Now, the one before that, advocate, that's only one time in the Bible. Advocate. What does advocate mean? And they do use the term.
A lawyer.
An attorney and a lawyer. They do use the term, and they use the term often. When we would be in court, the judge would ask, is anybody here representing the children or representing whoever they're representing? They say, we are here to advocate for the father. And they do use that term. Only one time in the Bible. A propitiation, I'm not sure, but it is 1 John 2:2. So it's Easter's Calvary. Calvary's only one time, one Bible, and that is found in the King James Bible. All right, this word, 2 Samuel 17:17.
Propitiation is 3 times.
3 times. Potentate is 1 time. Where's that found?
Revelation.
No.
Colossians.
Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 6, I believe. Potentate. Who takes on that word as a title? In what group?
Masons.
The Masonic Lodge, the Masons do.
Worshipful master.
Yeah, potentate. Only one time in the Bible. And it's only in reference to Jesus. Reverend, one time in the Bible, is his name, and so on. What is the one in Joshua 1:8? Success. That's one time in the Bible. Anyway, this is one time in the Bible. The word is wench. Verse 17, chapter 17. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz stayed by Enrogel, for they might not be seen to come into the city. And a wench went and told them, and they went and told King David. It's the only time, only place in the Bible. And it means, if you were to look that up in the dictionary, it means a country girl, a female servant or a female slave. A wench. Whenever I would hear where would you hear that term being used on television, maybe in a series? When do you think they're using that? Robin Hood, yeah. I would say Robin Hood.
Beverly Hills?
No, not on Beverly. I would say it's more of a medieval English term being used, and whenever I would hear the term as a child, I always thought, oh, that's a bad word. But it isn't. It's just a term for a slave girl, country girl, a servant. And so that's what that means. Anyway, it is one time in the Bible. All right, key characters. In fact, why don't we go to 1 Chronicles, where this is listed. 1 Chronicles covers 1st and 2nd Samuel, chapter 2. This would be where the genealogies, 1 Chronicles 2 would be the beginning where the genealogy is being told. Verses 13 through 17. And Jesse begat his firstborn Eliab and Abinadab the second, and Shema the third, Nethanel the fourth, Radadiah the fifth, and Ozem the sixth, David the seventh. David was the seventh. How was he numbered before that? David was how many? What was he?
6.
No, he is the eighth. And the cross-reference I have there is 1 Samuel 16:10. There's 8 sons of Jesse, 8 sons. So the assumption that one of the sons had died. Whose sisters were Zariah and Abigail. And the sons of Zariah, Abishai and Joab and Asahel, 3. And those 3 were such as David's right-hand men in the military. And Abigail bare Amasa. And so David made, I think, Amasa we'll say general at one time, and Joab killed him. If it's the same Amasa, was Jether the Ishmaelite. The father of Misha was Jether the Ishmaelite. And let's see, we have it marked through 17. So this is a family affair. And when he stabs him under the 5th rib, and they leave him in the way bleeding. And then everybody stood around and watched. Remember, and what did they do with Amasa? Anybody recall what they did with him? He's laying there in the way, and everybody stopped and looked. Anybody remember what they did? They dragged him off the street, got him out of the way, because everybody had stopped to take a look. So that would have been it sounds like that's a cousin, that he killed his cousin. So these key characters, it is a family affair. So there's David is a key character. Now we're talking in 2 Samuel. Nathan, these are key characters as far as key characters that are in the book, not part of the family. Now when we read the family affair and we saw these relatives, that's verses 13 through 17, showing that these people that were associated with David in his leadership was family. So you have David as a key character in 2 Samuel, obviously. Nathan the prophet, chapter 12. Abner was Saul's general. You have Joab. He plays different types in the Bible as a death angel. He could play the Holy Spirit. He could play the devil. He plays different roles spiritually. And then you have Absalom. He is a key character, other key characters that are found in 2 Samuel. I believe that's where you find David's mighty men, too. All right, Abner killed Joab's brother, which then made him an enemy, and Joab was after him after that, and feigned himself friendly so he could get near Abner so he could stab him. 2 Samuel 2. If you would turn there, verses 18 and 23. And there were 3 sons of Zariah there, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. And Asahel was as light of foot as a wild roe. 18, and then verse 23, Abner's telling the brother there to please step aside, don't follow me. Verse 23, howbeit he refused to turn aside. Wherefore Abner with the hinder end of the spear smote him under the fifth rib, which would be right at the heart, that the spear came out behind him, and he fell down there, and died in the same place. And it came to pass that as many as came to the place where Ahishel fell down and died stood still. There's another place where they stand still. And there may be something to that standing still. The hinder part of the spear, it sounds like smote him under the fifth rib, the hinder part. Well, I don't know if that's the sharp end or the dull end, I don't know. Anyway, Abner, if you picture Abner and picture this other one, why is it Abner told him to move us? Don't follow me. I should say that. Why couldn't Abner get away? Pardon?
The other guy's too fast.
The other guy was, it says he could run like a deer.
He was just warning him to stop. He was taking over, but
Say that again?
he was just warning him that, run faster than
Turn aside, otherwise you're going to get it. And so the younger guy kept running. Yes, go ahead, Richard.
I have a question. This says here, Esther fell down and died and stood still. How is that?
No, they stood still. Let's see here. Verse
23, the very last of it.
and died in the same place. And it came to pass as many as came forward. No, where he fell down and died, those that came to it stood still. And as many as came to the place where Ahishel fell down and died stood still. Those that walked over there,
Stood still.
they stood still.
I wish I could understand that, because I don't. But
Well,
I don't understand the language when they speak like that.
well, anyway, they came up to the body and they stood still and looked. All right, so you've got this young guy. He runs like a deer. And so picture Abner. Abner's probably, I wouldn't call him overweight, but how old do you think Abner is? And then, I mean, if you were to guess their ages, how old would Abner? Huh?
There's a generation.
There's a generation gap there. There's some kind of a gap. Well, guess Abner's age. We don't know what his age is. If you had to guess,
He's pretty young still, I think.
well, how old?
30.
Oh, you think he's 30?
There's a lot of bad, a lot of people dying, a lot of people going.
Yeah, he could be 30. I picture him between 30 and 40. And then the young guy, how old is he?
16. He's young.
I picture him more like 23. All right? But Abner's killed a lot of people. And so he's pretty confident, you know, we're going to have hand-to-hand combat. Who's going to win? The older guy. When is a boxer in his prime? We're talking now, not this cage fighting. I'm talking about old-time boxers. When are they in their prime? Generally. Late 20s, early 30s. It has to be before 35. About 32. When did Jesus die? Then, in his prime. Okay, when you think of the word lummox, I didn't look that up in the dictionary. What do you think, what would that be short for two words? A lummox. He's a big lummox.
I don't think we're allowed to say those are.
Well, there's, if you slurred two words together, a lummox, what would the two words be? A lumbering ox. And so Abner, to me, would appear more like a lumbering ox. The other guy is as quick and as agile as a deer. In boxing, man, if you just put your arms up like this and you're with a real boxer, that lumbering law ox will hit you right here in your forearms and you'll break them. And he'll beat your forearms up so much you won't even land a blow on you, and you're just going to drop them. And if you're really good, anyway, Abner kills his brother.
You would never hit me, I would take a dive before I threw the first.
Oh, yeah, in the 50s they were taking dives like crazy. His sin, 2 Samuel 3, verses 7 through 10, is he had the concubine of Saul. Verses 7 through 10, and Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ahiah. By the way, what did Rizpah do? I'm pretty sure I preached on her one time. For Mother's Day, I'm pretty sure. Anybody recall what Rizpah did? The concubine. Nobody remembers? They killed all of Saul's sons, and then what did Rizpah do? Nobody recalls. She stayed by the bodies. And then while she was by the bodies, what did she do? I'm pretty sure of this. You don't remember? She shooed all the buzzards away, all the birds that were going to eat it.
Yeah.
And David honored that.
Yeah.
All right, we remember that story. All right, 7 through 10. The daughter of Ahiah, the Ishbosheth said to Abner, this had been the son, wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine? Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Ishbosheth, and said, am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father, to his brethren, to his friends, and have not delivered thee into the hand of David, that thou chargest me today with a fault concerning this woman? So do God to Abner. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. That's when Abner jumped ship. So do God to Abner, and more also, except as the Lord hath sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan even to Beersheba. So he jumps ship, takes the other tribes, and hooks up with David. He's going to turn them over. By the way, in verse 10, what is unique in that? It's not the only time in the Bible, but what is the word in there? In verse 10, a certain word. Translate. So I remember Sam Gipp said that anything that's translated in the Bible is always in a better condition than when it was in its original condition. So who's the first thing to be translated? Anybody know? Enoch is. So that's a form of the rapture. Enoch, it says, is translated. After you are raptured, you are in a better condition. So Israel, the two, the split kingdom, the one translated over to the other, so now it's going to be under David. The point was it's always going to be in a better condition. And so where was he going with that? What do you hold in your hand?
Bible.
A translated Bible, meaning that it's in a better condition, because all those Bible correctors point to what?
The non-existent original.
Yeah, you added a few words in there. That's right. That's where we're going with that. The non-existent originals. And so all these Bible correctors say you got to know Greek, and you want to go back to the Greek to find out what it says, which is all false. That you hold in your lap a translation, and so it's in better condition than where it had come from. By the way, how many times has it been purified?
7 times.
In Psalm what? 7 times in Psalm what? Number, do I hear number 12? Number 12, Psalm 12.
12.
It's Psalm 12. It's Psalm 12 translated 7 times, purified 7 times. All right.
Well, yeah, you got the Coverdale Bible, you got the Tyndale Bible, you got, what's his name, Bible?
Oh, I have a list there. I have to go there for that list. Anyway, he killed Joab's brother, Abner did, and his sins was the concubine and the turning over the kingdom, the translating of the kingdom. Joab, he kills Abner. 2 Samuel 3. So Abner comes and sees David, but Joab wasn't there. So Joab, on the sly, calls him back in a feign, saying, you know, I want to help you, my brother. And he gets him aside and does him in. Verse 27, and when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly, and smote him there under the 5th rib, that he died for the blood of Asahel his brother. He does him in. David mourns over that. Verses 33 through 39. David lamented to mourn over Abner, and said, died Abner as a fool dieth. Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put into fetters. As a man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou. And all the people wept again over him. And when all the people came to cause David to eat meat, while it was yet day, David sware, saying, so do God to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else till the sun be down. And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatsoever the king did pleased all the people. For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it was not of the king to slay Abner, the son of Ner. And the king said unto his servants, know ye not that there is a prince and a great man fallen this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king. Now we bring this up in this next point, that David could not control his cousins. These were his cousins. The mother, that was David's sister's sons. And I am this day weak, though anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, be too hard for me. The Lord shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. And so the one cousin is killed by Abner, and then at the end, I don't know about the other one, how he dies, but Joab finally gets his at the end, when David is no longer king, and he sends, I think it's Beriah. And obviously Joab would be an older man, even though he is a hard, trained fighter. The younger man goes in there and does it then. Anybody knows whatever happened to 2 guys that tried to rob who's the Maslin Mauler? The 1920s, the long count. Jack Dempsey was on Paul Harvey. Jack Dempsey's in the back of a cab. I thought he was in his 70s. 2 guys went into the cab to rob him. I think so. I think he hit one guy once and knocked him out. He what?
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
He took them both on and did them in. Even though he was, I'm pretty sure in his 70s. You could probably Google that, see if that's true. I'm pretty sure I heard that on Paul Harvey. He's in his 70s. He was the heavyweight champion at one time, and he still could.
You get the element of surprise, too.
And he had the element of surprise. They may not have even known who he was. Didn't know who he was, and he gives him a real quick boom, and then but to knock you out, to actually knock you out, you got to have what kind of a jaw is that called? A glass jaw, meaning you have nerves real close, so it doesn't take a lot to, once you get hit, to actually collapse a glass jaw. All right, he killed Abner, and David could not control the sons of Zeruiah, which would have been his cousin. And Joab kills his cousin Amasa. 2 Samuel 17, when David comes back from after Absalom, he doesn't use Joab. Joab hooked up with Absalom. Big boo-boo. In 2 Samuel 17, verse 25, and Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son whose name was Ithra, initial Israelite, that went into Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister to Zeruiah, Joab's mother. This is a family affair. This is a cousin, would be a first cousin. He becomes the general here, captain of the host. In 2 Samuel 20, after Absalom's downfall, David keeps him on. David keeps him on, and verses 9 through 13. Joab said to Amasa, "Art thou in health, my brother?" And Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand to kiss him. Well, I mean, this guy is just one tricky guy. But Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand, so he smote him therewith in the 5th rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again. And he died. So Joab and Ishi, his brother, pursued after Sheba, the son of Bichri. Verse 12, Amasa swallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. When the man saw that all the people, there again is where they stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field. So he gets him off the highway, throws him in the field. And anyway, in 1 Kings, go to 1 Kings 2. This is probably where he meets his doom. 1 Kings 2, probably where he's hanging on the horns of the altar. 1 Kings 2, verses 5 through 6. Moreover, thou knowest, David is giving him Solomon his final instructions, Solomon, what to do to take over this kingdom, what you've got to do. You've got to get rid of, what would you call that within a government? Other than opposition. A what? Swamp. The actual swamp, that's another term. What else do you call that? Those that are not for you. And that's a mistake that Trump made at the beginning. What does a president normally fire at the beginning of a presidency?
General? Attorney General?
No. Well, yeah, they fire all the judges. They get rid of all the federal judges. They get rid of these, whoever they can appoint, they fire them all and hire their own. Get them in there. You can't, not those that are permanently, no, it's some kind of attorneys.
He did.
Well, it's some kind of judicial thing. No, he didn't. He didn't, but traditionally they get rid of whoever they can get rid of, they get rid of them. To assign people that are going to be loyal to them.
in charge. All right, 1 Kings 2, verses 5 and 6. And I'm not talking about lifelong appointments. Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me.
You can get rid of them. You showed them pictures, but I don't want you to spread.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what he did to the two captains of the host of Israel, unto Abner, the son of Ner, and unto Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war in peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his poor head go down to the grave in peace. All right, what does H-O-A-R mean? H-O-A-R means white. And so what else is it? It says his hoar head. What else is described that way in the Bible?
The snow.
Hoar frost, which would be snow. And what is frost? Frozen
Humidity.
Frozen dew, is it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be frozen dew?
Yeah, the
Water vapor that goes directly to solid.
Yes, it crystallizes immediately. And in science, what do you call that? You would have that in high school.
sublimation.
That's, okay. Some make it solid, yes.
Yeah, well, what it is, it's called the triple point. There's three graphs. It goes like this, and there's a point there. And it measures the temperature versus the one side of the graph is temperature, the other side, the bottom side of the graph is what? Pressure, air pressure. It's temperature and pressure. Depending on what the air pressure is, it could go from a solid, like snow, directly into a gas, or vice versa, instead of from a solid to water to gas. And it's called and there's a point where all those three graphs touch, and it's called the triple point. Anyway, in the Bible, it's called hoarfrost. Where would you find that? If you were to look for that in the Bible, what books would be logical in your head? Psalms, Ecclesiastes, and there's another one I would use. Pardon? It could be the Song of Solomon, but Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Another one would be the end of what book? Boy, that would be another one. Job.
I said Job.
Oh, you did say Job. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. It could appear more than once. But it would be logically Psalms, Job, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon in there. That's where you're going to find that. All right. Absalom, this other main character. Well, why don't we find out who killed him? He gets there's Bathsheba. Shemiah is slain. Before we move on, Abner, where Abner gets his.
The hoarfrost is in Exodus.
Hoarfrost is in Exodus. Give it to me.
Exodus 16:14.
Really? Okay.
How about 146 offering?
Say that again?
Psalm 146:16. This is a single.
It's in a psalm. Find where Abner gets his.
So it's not just one. Abner was in the middle.
I mean, not Abner. Joab. Thank you. Where Joab gets it. Oh, here it is. It's in chapter 2. No, this is not Joab. Here it is. Look at verse 25. And King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him that he died. That's the one that wanted the concubine. It's verse 28. Then tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adoniah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab, so he didn't go after Absalom, but he went after Adoniah. And Joab fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord, and caught hold of the horns of the altar. And it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord, and behold, he is by the altar. And then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, Go fall upon him. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord, and said unto him, Thus saith the king, Come forth. And he said, Nay, but I will die here. And Benaiah brought the king's word again, saying, Thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king said unto him, Do as he hath said, and fall upon him and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. 34. So Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up and fell upon him and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. I mean, these guys were ruthless. Well, you didn't have guns. They just went in there, man. He did him in. But Joab was older. He was older, and he's tired. And you got this new weightlifter. He's the general. He comes in there. He does him in. All right, last of all, Absalom. 2 Samuel, the main character in this book, 14 through 17.
2 Samuel what?
2 Samuel 18, verses 14 through 17. It's the last one, that's part E on your list before 15 there. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee, and because they were afraid to kill him. And he took 3 darts in his hand. Obviously, Absalom's coming a part of Jesus Christ here. I don't see how you can say it isn't. I say this stuff, and I'm telling you, right after service, I get complaints saying that this is anything short of blasphemy. But I don't know how you can't, people can't see that. 3 darts in his hand, thrust him through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. 10 young men that bare Joab's armor compassed about and smote Absalom and slew him. Joab blew the trumpet. People returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. A lot of times, all you have to do is just kill the leader. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the wood and laid a very great heap of stones upon him, and all Israel fled, every one to his tent. A lot of times, you just got to get rid of the leader. And so, what do the Democrats want to get rid of? Trump. They want to get rid of Trump. If they get rid of Trump, is it all over? Huh? You think so? I don't know. Man, I got an earful yesterday, and boy, a lot of this end time stuff was coming up, and I said to this individual, I said, well, that's what we preach. And the dates you're giving me are lining up with everything we're preaching. And without realizing, I said, where have you been all this time, you know? And they have seemed to have forgotten things. Anyway, and then we will begin here next week on number 15, David's triumphs, his troubles, and his transgressions. And so on. All right? Father, bless now the preaching in Christ's name.